This is the Eat Well, Think Well, Live Well podcast. I'm Lisa Salisbury, and this is episode 99, 7 Proven Sleep Strategies with Dr. Bijoy John. Bijoy John is a board-certified physician and practicing sleep specialist currently in private practice with over 25 years of experience in pulmonary and critical care and sleep medicine. He reached out to me to share some of his proven sleep strategies that are the foundation for his new book, Nobody's Sleeping. I know that many of you struggle with sleep, whether it's primary insomnia, which we get into quite a bit here, or just going back to sleep when waking in the night. Sleep is so foundational to living well and to weight loss. I know you're going to really love this episode and the strategies that Dr. John shares. Welcome to Eat Well, Think Well, Live Well, the podcast for women who want to lose weight but are tired of counting and calculating all the food. I'm your host, Lisa Salisbury. I'm a certified health and weight loss coach and life coach, and most importantly, a recovered chronic dieter. I'll teach you to figure out why you are eating when you aren't hungry instead of worrying so much about what you are eating. Welcome back to the Eat Well, Think Well, Live Well podcast. I'm delighted to have Dr. Bijoy John here with me today. He is a board-certified sleep specialist, and so obviously we're going to be talking about sleeping well today. That falls directly in our living well pillar of the podcast. Sleep is such an important part. Obviously, we are going to get into that. So welcome, Dr. John. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, thanks, Lisa. Thanks for having me on your show. Sleep is the foundation. It is the superpower. If you have a Lego, you put that sleep at the bottom, then you build your diet and fitness on it, right? So without sleep, you can't have the energy. You don't make the right choices with food. So it affects all parts of the body, mind, heart. This is within ourselves. It is free. I've discovered it over the years of practicing. My background is pulmonary, but I'm a full board certified sleep specialist for the last 3 years. I just started my own clinic. So I perfected the art and I want to share it with the world. So that's why I decided to write the book called Nobody's Sleeping, the 7 Proven Sleep Strategies. If we have time, we'll go all over that. I'm ready for all the questions, Lisa. Let's go.
Perfect. Okay. So let's start with the issues. What are the 3 most common sleep disorders? Or maybe there's more than that, but I think you mentioned that there are 3 pretty common ones. A lot of times when I'm talking to clients, when they're not getting enough sleep, the first thing I address is well, are you going to bed on time? A lot of times I find with my clients, especially their moms, they're busy women, they're midlife, they have a lot going. They just don't go to bed on time because they have so much going on. And when we correct that, they get enough hours of sleep. But then there's the portion of my clients that have sleep disorder of some sort. They're not able to go to sleep or they were waking up in the night. So what's the 3 most common things that you are seeing that doesn't just have to do with the folks that just aren't going to bed on time? Let's start with turning off the TV and going to bed on time, first of all. But if we've got that under control, what are some of the other issues that you see?
So when I approach a sleep problem, I ask myself or the client who's coming in, is it primarily a sleep problem or you have underlying medical problems, psychological problem, or you have a sleep disorder, right? So the most common sleep disorders in my clinic are insomnia, you either, have difficulty going to sleep or staying asleep. Number 2 is sleep apnea. Number 3 is the restless leg syndrome that people have that prevents them from going to sleep. So now talking to medical problems, like if you have a heart problem, if you have a lung problem, if you have chronic pain, or even if you have diabetes, you're using the restroom multiple times during the night, you don't sleep well. Then comes the psychological problems, whether you have anxiety or depression. So, if you're anxious, you don't sleep well. When you don't sleep well, you don't heal well, you're more anxious. So once I come to that conclusion, then we go into this pathway of, addressing the 3 common sleep disorders. That's how my approach is, and it's a practical approach because if you have other problems, you can do everything you can, you won't be able to fall asleep because the other problems are affecting you.
Yeah, that is such an issue because, I mean, from my perspective, as far as from coaching, like I said, mostly what I do is help people prioritize their sleep. But if they have true insomnia, what do you see as the best ways to overcome that?
Right. So that's called, primary insomnia. You just can't turn your mind off. Then the other reasons are called the secondary or comorbid insomnia, other conditions. So how do you do this? So I formed the 7 proven sleep strategies. I have an acronym for that. If you're, viewers are listening, you can write it down. It's called SLEEP. Now, sleep now acronym. So I'll go through one by one, which is
Great.
practical. I've perfected it over the last 25 years. So the first S is called the schedule, right? For every plan to succeed, we have to have a schedule. So if you, the general time to go to sleep is between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. So if you go to bed at 10, you can't fall asleep till midnight. Don't go to bed at 10. So the inclination is most people, in fact, they go to bed at 9. Now you're suffering from 9 to midnight. So go to bed closer to the time you fell asleep, like 11:30. Then once you're able to establish that, move a little bit backwards to 11:15, 11, 10:45, and so on. But the most important thing here is you have to wake up at 6 a.m. So that's, I'm trying to create a sleep debt. So that's the most important. You have to have, so most people, when they go through, it's very hard. The first 2 weeks, people are very angry at me, they're angry at themselves. But after 2 weeks, you'll be so amazed. Your clock will start to turn. You'll start getting 15 minutes, 30 minutes increments. So, but you have to wake up at 6 a.m. So that's the S, most important thing. The next is the
So,
acronym.
sorry, Dr. Don, let me interrupt you here. So, what you're saying is you need to get up at the same time, but you want to go get in bed at the time you typically go
Honestly,
to sleep, and
correct.
then increase that, move it
Yes.
back by 15
Yes.
minutes every day,
Perfect.
or like how often can you move that time
So
back?
you have to establish that time for at least a week. It's a slow process to move
Okay.
the clock because that might be a false. So once you're established for at least 3, 4, 5 days, ideally 7 days, but 4 days, 5 days, that's good.
I think I've heard this method called sleep restriction or
Yes, that is
regulation. Is that what
that
you
is sleep
restrict the
restriction.
sleep
Yes, right.
into the times that you normally do sleep?
Consolidation, sleep consolidation.
Okay. And this works best for primary insomnia where you have trouble going to sleep.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So now we go into the L in the acronym is low light, low noise, and low temperature. Melatonin, if you remember, is only secreted in darkness and low temperature. And of course, the noise affects our sleep. So the melatonin, the mela is darkness. So make sure your bedroom is dark and it's quiet, and the temperature is between 65 to 70 degrees. Okay. So that's it. The
Sorry, I'm
E.
going to interrupt you again.
Go
I
ahead.
have so
Yeah.
many questions. Okay,
Yes.
on darkness. How dark? Like I have a clock bedside that glows, and I just have regular like 2-inch wood blinds. I don't have any kind of like blackout curtains. So sometimes when the moon is bright, I can see the wall across the room. How dark is dark enough?
Yeah, as dark as possible. So I actually eliminate all clocks and glow lights in the room. So that is a hindrance to you, because as we go along to the next E, that's what I'm going to talk about.
Okay,
So
okay.
as dark as possible is my short answer. I mean, sometimes you can avoid it. That's okay. But as much, curtains, to keep it dark is the thing. So the E is the most important thing. No to electronics at least an hour, but on a practical basis, at least 30 minutes, because the light, no matter blue light filter in any of those filters, the light from the phone and the electronic devices, especially in your bedroom where there's no ambient light, it sends a stronger signal to the brain through your eyes saying, hey, it's still daytime. You don't need to go to sleep. Melatonin is only secreted in darkness. So, what happened with COVID? We bought our work home, and from home, we took it to our bedroom. So, we have all these gadgets next to us. So, I keep my phone in my bathroom. I set an alarm for 6, and I have to literally wake up. No chance to snooze button. I'm walking and turning it off, right? So, and also you might have disturbances like your text messages, notifications. You don't have a temptation to do that. Okay? So if your phone is away from your body, out of reach, you have to walk. So that's a great thing you can do. So that's the E. The next, go ahead. Got a question?
Yep. More questions.
Yeah.
The electronics. I have always wondered, does TV, like if my husband and I don't have a TV in our bedroom, but we watch TV downstairs, does that also have the blue light, or is that okay to turn the TV off and then go directly to bed? Or is it just the phones that have the blue light?
Yeah, TV is also, so what happens is you don't want anything big electronics in your bedroom, right? Bedroom is only for,
Yeah, no,
sex and sleep. You don't want TV. Nothing good happens. Your thoughts provoking. I still remember the 1999 election, Al Gore versus Bush. Every few minutes it was changing. I was up all night. The TV was next to me. That's when I realized I got to take this TV out. And all this research about taking your TV out of your bedroom is all new in the last 20 years. So I'm right in there. So I took the TV out, and since then I don't let TV in my children's room or in my own room. We don't have TV. So you don't want to have a TV. You turn it on,
yeah,
light, boom. So, in the middle of the night, if you wake up, I tell people to leave the bedroom and go watch TV. See, between the TV and the phone, TV is a little bit better because you have to turn on another light, and it's much calmer on your body. And then the phone, which is got so close to you, boom, it goes in. So nice,
yeah.
good question right there.
So I mean, but like at the fundamental, is it considered blue light? Is TV considered blue light?
I'm sure it is because there's multiple. I'm not sure, completely sure of the answer, but I'm
Okay.
sure it is.
I also use pretty frequently a Kindle, which is just like the paper white, the
Yes.
paper light, paper something. Anyway, it doesn't, from what I understand, that is not blue light. That's just because it's like black and white.
So the analogy I give here is Coke and Diet Coke, right? So it's still light. You can split it as much as you can, but it is not good for you. I tell people, if any electronics, I tell it's like a TSA screening. If you're going through your, the screener, if you're carrying your phone like that should be your entrance to your bedroom. Beep, you have your phone, take it away. You're bringing all your worries to bed. Beep, you have to leave it all outside. So that's the entrance to your bedroom is your TSA scanner. No phone, no electronics. So that's,
I cannot go to sleep without reading. It helps me go to sleep so much.
if
Uh,
that's one thing, that's okay. But I'm given it when you give an advice, it has to be for the majority of the people. Some people are
sure.
always exceptions. Some people can drink coffee and go to bed within half hour. Some people can have loud music. So, but most people cannot. So,
Yeah.
so if
Well,
you're
and
an
I
exception,
mean, the truth is, I don't really have a lot of sleep problems. And
yes.
so I feel like, well, if it's working, then maybe I don't need to change. But I
Yeah.
just have wondered, like, if it is considered blue light,
Yeah, I might
that
have to look
Kindle.
into it, but I don't give a wrong answer to you or your viewers. The next is the exercise. So exercise generate heat. So make sure you don't exercise at least 4 hours prior to going to sleep. Because remember, melatonin your body has to, cool down. Same thing with eating a big meal before bedtime. You're having a lot of heat within, the sleep onset is like half hour prior to the temperature drop. So it's kind of related to the temperature minimum at night. So exercise in the morning. If you don't have a chance, make sure you exercise 4 hours prior. So then we're going on with the acronym is P. You have a question?
Yeah,
Yes,
I do.
please. Yeah, shoot away. Yeah.
So, as far as I just caught you said, eating too
Yeah.
produces heat.
Yeah.
I notice that is really common with my clients that they tell me, yeah, I just don't sleep well if I have a really big meal. And so it's one of those sort of, I talk to them a lot about short-term reasons for not overeating because overeating is primarily what I help my clients discontinue is just plain old overeating, not anything, crazy. And we need to have reasons for why we don't overeat, right? And a lot of them are these like long-term health reasons. And so I always try to bring it in short, like, okay, but what will change if we don't overeat within an hour of now, 2 hours from now, 3 hours from now? And sleeping is a huge one for my clients with not overeating at dinner. They often will tell me if I overeat at dinner, I don't sleep well. And so it's interesting for you to say it's partly because the heat of digestion, the heat is
Yes.
generated and so your body's not cooled down enough to be able to go to sleep. So I just love knowing the science behind that for them because, I hear it a lot from clients that they are sleeping better because they're not overeating at dinner. And so that's an interesting reason why.
And also the full stomach, you're not comfortable. And then, you're also predisposed to acid secretion. You have heartburn. That can be a reason why
Mm,
people maximum acid is secreted between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. So, eating early, a light meal for dinner has many, many purposes to help with sleep. So then we have gone to the SLEEP. P is power of your mind, but I've given a chance by calming your body, and then also don't access to all the electronics and the worry creating, emails and text messages. You're taking it out, so you can't calm your mind without giving it a chance. So I teach two techniques to help people power off the mind in bed. One is called a vivid imagination. So a vivid imagination is a term, it's there, but for sleep, I am kind of like pioneering it. So when you lay in bed, I don't want reality. I don't want the imagination of your bills, your problems. I want to leave that out. But in bed, I want to create your own imagination. As the director of your show, you want to be in the abstract. You just have to have your thought process go along. New story. You don't want to live in reality, which really helps. I've been using this technique personally. I've taught many people for 30 years, and it really, really works. But remember, I'm giving your body a chance, your mind a chance.
Can you give an example of what that would look like?
So, like, let's say last night I watched a TV show, and then, hey, what if I think I'm the director? I'm going to have this characters play out, and I literally write a story in my head, and then what happens? You will be surprised to know as the story develops, you fall right into sleep. It's an amazing technique, uh, but what happens is contrary to that, we think about the problems. We're trying to solve the problems in our bed, which is not good. So
So
that's a
instead of
lesson.
trying to solve our actual problems, we maybe put ourselves in an imaginary situation
Yes.
and we become, do you like us to be the hero in those situations?
Whichever you want to be, whatever you want to be. It's your show. You created it. So, and part B is yoga nidra. There's many types of yoga. Nidra means nothingness. When you lay in bed, you want to be completely nothing. Think about nothing. But I give people a little bit of a chance to think about their different parts of their body. Start from your scalp, facial muscle, neck muscles, chest, belly, and go all the way down. So this is cognitive behavioral therapy of insomnia, but this is I just incorporated. But you can only do all this thing. The phone's next to you, ding. Oh no, I want to answer this phone. You can't do it, right? So and the
Yeah.
bright light, noise going, and had a big meal. And so remember, sleep is a dimmer switch. It's not an on and off switch. We want it to be an on and off switch. And we are met our match in the counterculture or the hustle culture with sleep. Sleep is that test, It's an ancient art. It's simple yet complicated for many because of the type of world we live in, busy, busy, busy. So we have come to P, we have power off your mind. Next is the NO in the acronym, no to worries. We all worry. I want you to worry, but I worry between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. I'm done by 8. If I'm not solving the problem, I'm writing it down. I'm getting ready for your show tonight. I say, what time is it? Is it Eastern time? All those things. Do my notes, and I'm out by 8 p.m. I don't think about it. I don't take it to my bedroom. So I say, I leave it all. I write it down for the next day. So that's the no to worries.
So I mean, what would you say to someone that's like, but I can't just not worry about it. Like, this is a big issue to me, my child, my spouse, my family, that's pretty common worries it feels like telling a depressed person just be happy. How do you tell someone who's worried to just not worry?
No, that's why I'm telling people to take the time between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. to worry. See? So dedicated worrying time, right? I want you to worry. We all worry because that's the way we'll, but I want to put a stop to it. See, what is anxiety and depression? Anxiety is the fear of the unknown or the future. Depression is worries of the past, right? It's a simple definition, but complicated. If you can resolve that, you have 2 hours to resolve it. You're going to take that into your bed. You're not going to resolve that. So write it down for the next day. So I want everybody to worry. So if the child is the problem, we talk to the child between 6 p.m. He builds out the problem, try to do that, notes, whatever it is, have a dedicated time. It works really, really well because you have a purpose. Hey, I have 2 hours dedicated to my worries, right? Well, that's the time I worry about. So that's a practical way. We all worry.
I tend to worry in the background while I'm doing other things.
Yeah, that's okay too. But do that not in bed. See, you are a sound sleeper. I'm trying people who are not good sleepers to take you to their bedroom. So you're able
Yeah.
to, your secretions of your chemicals are much more stronger than people suffering with insomnia.
The nights that I do have trouble sleeping are definitely related to worrying. It's definitely the
Yes.
nights when something has happened. I don't want to say something traumatic. That's a little bit dramatic for times I think that I've had trouble sleeping in the last, I don't know, several months, but I have had, I mean, good things too. Like my son got married and there was a lot going on and a lot of stress. And so it's those kinds of things that sort of kept me from sleeping. So I relate to this, like the worry part. So is the advice generally then to sort of have a time dedicated, but then if you aren't solving it, to write it down and get it out
Yes,
of the brain
yes,
and then
exactly.
address it the next day?
Yes, this works, because you're giving a chance practically, when people have poor sleep, I tell them to, I have my own technique. I tell them to write it all down. I have this sleep journal and they're able to see, wow, I had caffeine around this time. I had this much alcohol.
Mm,
This is when I am worrying. So they're able to see it visualize. So if you're writing
hmm.
down will help you a lot.
Okay.
So that's no worries. The last one is win by losing. We can hustle our way, hustle everything, but sleep, you have to let it go. You have to lose yourself with easy routines. So that's this acronym which has worked well for many, many years, many, many hundreds of patients. So SLEPNOW. So that's the 7 proven sleep strategy. That's the subtitle of my book.
Nice. Thank you. That's really helpful for that primary insomnia. Do you think these things help also with, believe it's called the secondary, where you wake up in the night?
Yeah. So what happens is the second portion of insomnia is, see, this is called sleep onset insomnia we discussed. The second part is sleep maintenance insomnia. So the sleep cycle goes through, different REM and non-REM. Every 60 to 90 minutes we alter. Sometimes, we also go through lighter stages of sleep that you wake up. But are you waking up because of a medical problem, like shortness of breath, or you want to use the restroom because you have diabetes, if you have asthma, or if you're having acid reflux, or if you have a condition like sleep apnea, or if you are moving a lot in your sleep called limb movement disorder. So these are the times you have to have help from your physician to see why are you waking up in the middle of the night. So Dr. John, that's a practical thing, but what do I do if I wake up in the middle of the night? So if you're short of breath, make sure you take your inhaler. If you're using the restroom a lot in men, it could be a prostate problem. In women, menopausal women have a risk for urinary tract infection. So you have to think in those angles. But if you wake up, I want you to leave the bedroom and go outside the bedroom. So you don't need to like torture yourself in bed. But don't look at the clock. There's no clock in my bedroom. I don't look at my phone in the middle of the night because there may be multiple messages. Then I'm thinking, so I just go watch TV. It happens in my own life. So, Dr. Matthew Walker, he wrote the book Why We Sleep. He says, you don't sit in a dining table to get hungry. So you don't lay in bed, wanting to sleep, so you don't, think about it. So you leave, your brain doesn't associate as a torture chamber. I'm not able to sleep well. In the middle of the night, just leave, watch TV. It happens to me. I just come back after that.
How long? Because I mean, I wake up in the night, but I'm not awake enough to want to leave the bedroom. How long would you say to give yourself? Because it's normal to have wake ups in the night. Most of us don't remember them, is the way I understand it. So if we have a small wake up, I woke up the other night and I was like sleeping wrong on my neck, and I was like, wow, that feels terrible. And I turned over and I thought, oh, am I going to be able to go back to sleep? And the next thing I knew, it was the morning. So clearly, just because I woke up doesn't mean I have to get out of bed. How long do you give yourself before you're like, okay, it's time?
Yeah. So, like I said, it's common to wake up. So make sure you don't look at the time. So immediately there's a clock. So I eliminate clocks, all electronic. Then you are like 3 o'clock. Oh, it's only 3 o'clock. So it creates the cognitive activity. So I'll tell people, but so I call it in my book, I mentioned the semi-delicate state. Even if you have to use the restroom, go ahead and then just come back. I call it the sleep shape. Keep the shape, then lay back to bed. But if you come back and then if it's about 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes max, you're just tossing and turning. You didn't enter back into the sleep cycle. That's when you leave and, watch TV and then get back and try this. So remember, if you're having this problem constantly, you still have to wake up at 6 o'clock or a dedicated time. So a few days you're creating the sleep debt, but if you relax that by snooze button, you're releasing that pressure. You with
Hmm.
me? So if you get any problem, either sleep onset or sleep maintenance, insomnia, you just have to wake up at a consistent time, and then the sleep debt will take over, and then you will start sleeping. See, we all do this without our knowledge during time change. That's why vulnerable people, I see a lot of problem, especially when people lose time around this time, because they have a trouble. But if you're good, we pass through subconsciously through the time changes. It happens to all of us.
I mean, sleep is a constant issue, I think, especially for my clients and listeners in this perimenopause, menopause time. A lot of my clientele is in that category. What would you say to the hormonal shifts that cause some of the sleep disorders or sleep issues?
So I just recently wrote an article on Neurology Live. It's on Google. If you Google my name, you'll find. So I said the title of the thing is "Sleep Sucks at 50." So,
Oh no,
so,
I got
so
2 more years.
so what happens, in a menopause and perimenopause, you lose estrogen. In my research with Pulmonary, estrogen was the biggest thing that saved a lot of young women from the bad complications in the ICU. It's a great hormone, but when you lose it, everything tends to sag, especially the tongue. It falls backwards and causes obstruction. So women are more prone for sleep apnea around perimenopause, menopause age. Men are more have more incident sleep apnea, but around menopause, the risk is same, and you gain about 7 pounds on the average. The same thing happens with night sweats. You're sweating a lot. Uh, you know, you are at risk for other medical problems like diabetes. And if you've taken alcohol or tea, you read a lot of things and do a few things. Tea is also a diuretic. You're waking up in the middle of the night, and also the low estrogen slows down the urinary passage. The ureter is a smooth muscle. It kind of relaxes this nice estrogen, and your urine is lagging behind. It's more static, and you create urinary tract infection. More women around this time also have iron deficiency anemia, so that could cause restless leg syndrome. So there's so many A, B, C, D, E, F. I describe a women
Hmm.
a chapter for that in my book about women's problems. My mom taught me how to sleep and taught me about naps. So I said I have to have a chapter for women to help women, through this.
Well, hormone replacement therapy has really been helpful for me with sleep. I assume that you recommend that as well. But getting on the right dosage of estrogen and progesterone has really impacted my good sleep. I was, the night sweats and I was starting to have wakenings and stuff. So my dosage was adjusted and that helped a lot. I'm sure you see that as well.
Right. I recommend that, but make sure you do it with an expert in that field
Oh,
because
sure.
it cuts down in both ways.
Yeah. Yeah. So all this too is interesting, but why do we care? Like, what's the big deal besides, oh, I'm a little bit tired? Why do we care about sleeping? And specifically, if you could speak to those of us that are trying to lose and or maintain weight, why do we care about our sleep?
So sleep, affects all parts of the body. You're tired, you're angry, you are in a mental fog. It can affect blood pressure, it can affect blood sugar, it can affect your sexual health. So the most question about sleep and diet. So the diet is controlled by two, hormones, leptin and ghrelin. Leptin lowers the appetite, ghrelin increases the appetite. When you don't sleep well, two things happen to you. Number one, you're more time to be awake. Guess what? When you have more time to be awake, you're going to eat more. It's just because of the time. And then you're going to make bad choices. You're going to eat high glycemic food. And just by eating a high glycemic food, even 4 hours prior to going to sleep, it's you affect your quality of sleep. And then the leptin ghrelin ratio is altered. You have less of leptin and more of ghrelin when you don't sleep well. So that, you're more ghrelin, it increases your appetite and you're making bad choices, you're eating more, and there you have a vicious cycle, and you are at risk for sleep apnea, and then overweight. When you gain weight, you have sleep apnea, and that can cause this whole problem to complications and problems associated with sleep apnea.
So I tend to shy away from terms like bad food, good food, just because we try to shun the diet culture here on this podcast. So let's be real specific when you say bad choices. What I notice is that my clients will make choices that are for foods that are higher in the carb fat combination. Is that what you mean by making
Yeah.
bad choices? Like, I just find that when my clients are tired, They're not like, you know what I need is a high protein, high fiber breakfast.
Yes. So the high glycemic food, is the problem. Like sugar, carbonated beverages, the popcorn, the chips. So there's a high glycemic foods. So
Mhm.
you're li likely to tend to, eat that because that's easily accessible. The great food about, more low glycemic food like the salads, it's an effort to make, but these are all easy to grab. When you're tired and sleepy, you just grab for whatever is near you. So
Yeah.
that's a choice. Like night shift workers, to keep themselves awake, there's a higher incidence of overweight or weight gain in night shift workers because they're tired and they're trying to survive by eating, and being more awake.
This has been super informative about sleep. I think most of us know how important sleep is, and just anything we can do to improve it is going to help. I do have one question about sleep apnea, and that is, how would we know? I mentioned to you that my mom had a sleep test, and honestly, even though I was the one that got it ordered because I help her with all of her medical stuff, I can't even remember why we originally ordered that sleep test. But that's when we discovered that she had sleep apnea. And it just made me think, how would a person know if they need to be tested for sleep apnea?
Right. So, very easy answer is if you snore. See, we talk about sleep apnea, there is something, a word before it. It's called obstructive sleep apnea. So, when air goes through a narrow, obstructed passage, you snore. So, that's an easy clue. And the next clue is if you're tired during the day, right? So, even though
Okay.
you sleep, you're waking up multiple times because when you have an apnea, the brain wakes you up. So, if you snore, if you are tired, then these are and if you have other medical conditions like high blood pressure or diabetes, those can be controlled by treating your sleep apnea. So I would say snoring, being tired, and if you have other medical conditions, that's a easy clue to get rule out sleep apnea.
Now, this is totally like, asking for a friend, but say you're a person, not
Yeah.
me, who has snored basically their whole life. Like, I have snored since I was pretty young, like in my 20s and 30s. Like, it feels like sleep apnea is something that occurs in older people. Is that accurate or
A third of
what?
my pay, my clients who see me are not overweight. So it is genetic. If the parents have it, there's more, reason the child has. So if you snore, there's a 90% chance you have sleep apnea, right?
Oh no.
The analogy I give is infection and fever, right? So if you have an infection, you're going to have a fever. So the infection here is sleep apnea. But sometimes people just get hot. There's no infection. So those are the snorers without sleep apnea, and the people with infection are the ones who have the sleep apnea. So more than likely, you have sleep apnea. There's a 90% chance if you snore, you have sleep apnea.
Mm. Well, that's bad news for me. Um,
Yes.
don't ask your spouse if you snore, because then you might end up like me, knowing that you snore so much. It's not really a secret in my family, though. Okay, well, thank you again, Dr. John, for all of your wisdom here about sleep. Is there anything that we've missed? Any last piece of advice that you'd like to offer to the listeners?
So sleep problems, if you're tired, you don't, please don't put it away. It doesn't hurt like a toothache, so we don't, we have a natural tendency to put that away. But years of that will catch up with you. But just when you sleep well, you are supercharged. You can perform more, being more awake by sleeping well at night. So I just want everybody to discover the power which is free, which is within all of us, and be your optimal best so we all can live in a much better place, being happy within ourselves and spreading the joy to everyone. So I tell people sleep well and be well. I have all this information on my website, sleepfixacademy.com.
Perfect, great. And also tell us a little bit about your book.
So my book's called Nobody's Sleeping, Seven Proven Sleep Strategies. It was released on the 12th. For a week. I've been number one in the new sleep releases in sleep disorders. So I've topped even just before the show. I just out of curiosity want to look at. I'm still at number one. So there's a lot of need, so I'm excited to share this information. So I have different chapters for children, teens, adults, older adults, women, athletes, mental health, diet, so if you want those chapters, you can read it. This is a complete book. My aim was to design a book for the whole family. There's, so they can get this resources because I, treat all age groups. So I just want to share this information with others.
Great. Well, congratulations on that. That's great news. All right. Thanks so much. And we'll put all of those links in the show notes. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Lisa. I really appreciate it.
If this episode has helped you in any way, all I ask is for you to share it. Share it with a friend or share it on your social media. I always get comments when I chat with new clients about how useful the free content is that I put out here on the podcast, but how it's totally different when I'm applying it directly to them. I actually had a recent client say, I listen to so many podcasts, but coaching is like literally, this is how you do it. The fact that it is being spoken directly to me made me apply it better. So I thought that was interesting. And if you are looking for that extra bit of personalized help, be sure to schedule your free session with me and see how much you can benefit. Link for that is in the show notes. Have a great week. And as always, thanks for listening to the Eat Well, Think Well, Live Well podcast.